All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Tonight we're going to be talking about the differing career trajectories from the breakups of the Wyatt family and the Shield. This is interesting because they both started feuding, ended up breaking apart, and now we're kind of seeing how things are gelling together. Are they doing it too fast? Are they doing it too slow? Who's getting pushed? Who's getting left out? And who are they trying to push for all the same spots? But before I continue, you had something you wanted to get off your chest?
Right, yeah. This is going to be a very interesting podcast because we're talking about this time last year, last January, February, they actually did the whole Wyatt family and Shield thing. It was a really cool, brief feud, and then of course they both broke up, and here we are now. But real quick, I like to take the opportunity while I have airtime and a platform to speak. I always try and touch on some things in real life that are going on because we're a small bubble. We're a wrestling podcast. We're one small nuance in an entire world of real life things that are much bigger and more important than pro wrestling. Earlier today, this morning, Stuart Scott, ESPN anchor, passed away, and at the age of 49, he lost his battle with cancer. I shouldn't say lost his battle because he always pointed out in his interviews when he talked about it that you don't lose a battle as long as you continue to fight. And my mom also passed away at age 48 a few years ago from cancer as well. And I just sort of wanted to say that Jim Valvano, who started the foundation when he had cancer as well, always said, don't give up, never give up. And I just think it's important that even though we're a wrestling podcast, I just wanted to say to those out there struggling with cancer and things of that nature, that as long as you continue to fight, you never lose the battle. So your life, means something, whether it's a short-lived life or a full life. As long as you stay positive and keep fighting, you're always going to win the battle. So those out there that are looking to seek help, come find somebody, rely on friends, family, and faith, and just keep pushing through it, because whether you triumph in the end or, however it turns out, as long as you stay positive and uplifted, you're always going to win the battle. So don't give up, never give up. But we're a wrestling podcast, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to trudge forward and get back into the sports world and the Wyatt family and the Shield.
Yep. Which one would you like to start with, Wyatt family or Shield? Which are we going to go the crazy funky bunch, or are we going to go with the more conventional military types that ended up finding their own identities?
I think in general, in my personal opinion, the Shield have the brighter future and kind of are the centerpieces of the company right now. So I think let's start with the Wyatts.
All right, let's go with the Wyatts. Really, I gotta say, I was surprised by how quickly, not necessarily the Shield, because you could see that one coming. There was more tension. That was more a group built to fall apart, like you said, based on the fact that they have a brighter future. However, I gotta say the Wyatts, when I first heard about it, I was a little perplexed at what they actually had to gain by, because I thought they were stronger as a whole, as a fist, than as separate fingers, if that makes any sense, just because of the fact that they were such a strong unit. And having them feud with the Shield and whatnot, and just, in essence, with having so many factions like the Authority and then Cena's team and whatnot, it almost gave them a numerical advantage to kind of just have their own identity and get involved in whatever side they wanted. But it was just so random. I believe the one that I found out about it was Bray Wyatt did a promo, and he basically released Luke Harper one week. And, he talked about, they did a promo of like a pregnant woman talking about a rebirth of like a monster. And it was kind of like he was leashing him on the world, but it was like not necessarily going to be an ally, but not necessarily going to be an adversary thing either. And then a little while later, we had a very perplexing same thing happen with Eric Rowan, and it was a little confusing because one week I'm watching, he's stalking one of the divas wearing the sheep mask, and the next he's getting pushed as a next good mid-card heavyweight face just so abruptly, and I didn't really have much explanation. I might have missed a week in between there, but I just kind of wondered, is it making the character of Bray Wyatt weaker, and how bright is the future for those two? And I always thought Harper was a little more talented than the two just because of virtue of the fact he doesn't have a goddamn sheep mask on. But, it was just kind of nice to see that they recognized him and gave him such a quick title push, but they pulled it right back and took the belt and gave it back to Ziggler. So I was definitely the Ziggler match helped him, though. But looking at Wyatt, I just don't feel like he was very well booked over the last year, because I feel like the Undertaker and Lesnar feud should have been flipped. The Undertaker feud should have been given to Wyatt then, because it would build up his character more and his mystique a little more, instead of having him just go right after a more full-time main event figure like Cena at a possible expense to him. Because if you look at the guys Cena's feuded with, a lot of them afterwards have not had a good track record of getting back up there. Sandow cashed in his briefcase against him, and he's now a Miz clone, spray tanning his behind. So I just don't... It seemed to me like it was a little forced and a little rushed, and he lost every single one of those matches except the one in the cage. And then they booked him with Chris Jericho, a part-timer, and Jericho got a few wins here and there, and they just, in my opinion, didn't book him strong enough. And then broke up the Wyatt family soon after with really no stipulation or reason why, and I wasn't sure they were ready for it. What was your take on it?
This to me is really interesting because the Shield thing, they're all going to be, around the main event as solo guys. They have careers being singles guys. That was sort of really, it was a matter of when, not if. With the Wyatt family, it was not only was it a lot quicker of a breakup, they were together a lot less amount of time than the Shield were, but they fit together so much better in terms of the fact that Wyatt and Harper were doing a really good job as a tag team. They both played, all three played their characters.
I don't know why they didn't give them a tag team title run.
Phenomenally.
Have they devalued the tag belts that much that it wasn't worth throwing them on them?
There are so many reasons why this makes no sense to me. And the first thing was that Wyatt's getting super pushed. He comes in. They have the Royal Rumble. He beats Daniel Bryan clean. He comes out, interferes with John Cena's match that night.
And then goes on a losing streak.
They go to the chamber, and he pins Roman Reigns clean in a 6-man tag. He's on fire. He gets to Mania, Super Cena's him, and then you don't see him again for a while.
And he just
goes away.
Bumped further and further and further down the card, and it makes absolutely no sense as to why.
I'm flummoxed as to why they're broken up, because it doesn't help or hurt Wyatt to have Harper and Rowan with him. It helps him because it's more to the character, and they all fit together better, because they're going to be like the outside goons that are going to make Wyatt's act work even more.
And I made this comment to Chris, and I'm not really much of a WWE supporter, but when I was following and whatnot, I said to Chris, it was either December or January, I said, honestly, you could give me a stipulation where Bray Wyatt gets a title shot tomorrow and wins the belt at a pay-per-view, and I would not bat an eye, and I would say that is completely fine, because I felt that he was over enough at that time, but I felt that he'd just been busted back so far and demoted that it's almost like he's in the military, he gets promotion, he does something stupid, he peels potatoes, and then he gets his original position back when he should be 3 levels up from where he is now.
What's so weird is that Harper and Rowan are both still playing weirdo characters. They're playing
just in a different way, but Rowan's playing a face, and if anything, he's trying to be more humanized, and now you just had him lose to the Big Show, who's really nothing more than a gatekeeper at this point.
Well, I mean, first of all, as far as the tag team thing, when they were all together, Wyatt was getting the really good push till Mania. Harper and Rowan should have had those tag belts.
They were getting a great push, too. They pinned the tag champion, they beat Big Show and Mark Henry.
And by the way, some of those matches with the Usos are phenomenal matches.
They were, yeah, absolutely.
Really good.
The Usos, their in-ring work is interesting, yeah.
Their 2 out of 3 Falls match, I believe,
they just don't
it was
get given enough time or
Battleground.
attention.
I believe it was Battleground. They had a 2 out of 3 Falls match with the Usos. One of my top 5 matches of the year for that company last year.
Yeah.
Phenomenal match. Those guys had great chemistry, and the Usos had no other opponents. They kind of ran through the gauntlet. It was time for the Wyatts to have the belts, especially going through the year with having Wyatt as the leader and these 2 other goons, talented goons, being the tag champs. And by the way, Rowan doesn't really have much of anything, in my opinion, to last. He's the one guy of these 6 guys we're talking about that I think does not have a bright future ahead of him.
I think you could see in 3 years him getting released and going to a different promotion and maybe finding a different thing that would work for him that doesn't involve his current gimmick. I think that would work better.
He's still really green in the ring, too. He's the one guy that's not very seasoned in the ring. And the thing that really struck me
he is such an awkward character, though, too, because, how in the world do you develop and expound upon that? Because it's like, my God, Al Snow is able to do it with a mop, but not everyone can do that. You give the guy a sheet mask, and he's just basically a monster, but you can't make him too strong of a heel or a face because there's so many other people in those spots. What do you do?
And here's the thing. You have enough monsters right now in your company. But the thing about it was so weird, like you said about him coming out with Renee Young. He was stalking a pretty with the sheet mask. He's stalking Renee Young, and that's the angle. He's going to be a comedy creeper character.
Yeah.
He's just going to be a
and that never works
guy.
For anyone.
And then, like you said, 2 weeks later, I think somebody got injured or something. Sheamus got hurt.
And he ended up in the Big Show spot.
Let's throw Rowan
in there. Rowan in there. Big guy.
Put him in the Survivor Series tag match and turn the guy from a comedy guy to a mid-card guy. And he actually was getting a decent reaction. He wasn't getting crapped on. He was starting to get a reaction. So, of course, the Big Show pins him clean next month, and now we're back to where we are.
Well, here's the other funny thing is, the first matchup came with absolutely no fanfare. Rowan faced Wyatt on SmackDown like last week and lost, but it was a quick match, and it had no build-up at all. Why in the world?
He also faced Harper.
He did?
Yeah,
he did.
He faced Harper on Raw like 2 weeks ago.
And there was almost absolutely no build-up, and it was just an anecdotal thing. Like, oh, by the way, you guys know these guys. They used to be in the Wyatt family together, and here they are fighting with no reason given behind it.
They broke them up with no reason.
And then they had the Authority kind of book it, or just whoever the anonymous Raw GM is. And you didn't even develop that. You can't even do the tag team splitting up and wrestling each other properly. They're just rushing it.
I think Wyatt's character is this deranged cult leader. He is a guy that he wants people to follow him.
And now you've taken
So why do you take followers away unless you're going to bring the Ascension or somebody else new in and have them be the new guys?
And I don't think they're a little too green for me right now. I mean, I've only seen one match from them. I don't feel like they're ready to take that spot when you already have Harper and Rowan established in that spot.
Right.
That just, to touch briefly on is my only problem with NXT, because I think there's just too many guys with talent and not enough spots.
Right.
And that's kind of the problem, because at some point...
It's a good problem to have, but it's a problem.
Yeah, because you start knocking off the in-prime guys for the really, really younger guys who might be able to do it better, but then what do? You have too many people.
Yeah. And here's my thing. Like I said, not only was it totally inexplicable to break those guys up, and the way that he did it, they brought Wyatt back after the Jericho feud. He had nothing to do for a while, so they're like, well, we're going to bring him back and he's going to release these guys. I don't understand the reason behind it. I don't really get it. And I think Luke Harper's got a ton of a future.
Oh, absolutely.
As a singles guy.
His age might hurt him. I don't know how old he is. He looks a lot older than I think he might be.
I don't think he's all that old. I think he just had the beard and the dirty shirt and it. Yeah. I think he's somewhere.
And he's had some gray hair. I'm not really sure how old he is. We'd have to look at that.
I followed his work for quite a while in Chikara as Brody Lee.
I liked him,
and so I'm a huge fan of the guy.
He stood out more to me than in the tag team and everything, yeah.
Not only is he a great character, and he plays it well, and he can actually talk a little better. He doesn't get much time to talk.
No.
They don't have time for him to talk, but he's a pretty good talker, and he's one of the more agile and more well-rounded big men in the company.
He's one of the better big men that I've seen lately. He can work every style.
He's a very talented guy, and he can go with bigger guys, smaller guys, whatever. He's believable regardless because his character's there. Everything about him is primed to be a top guy at some point. I think the IC level's good for him right now. I just don't know what
just because there's too many other spots. You can't move him into the world title picture now. There'd be no reason to.
Right.
And that wouldn't sell a pay-per-view right now just because of the fact of who his character is. He needs to be a little more established. But Wyatt, I look at him now. I don't see that guy that I could say, okay, he could legitimately challenge for a world title. Now, I see like 4 other guys that deserve a spot before him just on the pecking order. Like even Orton deserves a title shot more than him.
I know that the internet's kind of gotten a little tired of Wyatt. I think the internet's got.
You know what though? They turn on anybody after they find success. That's the problem.
Find him a little stale.
Whenever he starts becoming like a more popular like thing, and everyone's doing the lights and everything, there are very few people the internet still cleaves to, other than Daniel Bryan and CM Punk and whatnot. Other than that, once you get a run and they feel like you've been depushed and whatnot, a lot of them turn on them. And that's the problem with, that's why I don't put any stock in Lords of Pain or any of that stuff, just because the fans on there, they're not, I don't know really what logic they're operating from. It's almost like they don't enjoy it and they'd rather be proven right than be happy.
Yeah, and I think in this case, like I've said this before, I think on this podcast, if not, I'll make it clear right now, I think Bray Wyatt is, in my opinion, the best character in the company. Character-wise, and in my opinion,
because he's
also
so original.
The best character since Raven. We talked earlier, off-camera, off-mic.
He's like a second-generation
Raven
because he has that same aura.
Having this Cape Fear, Waylon Mercy kind of a character.
And Raven was always booked wrong, in my opinion. They should have had him go after The Undertaker or Sting because he had that ability to be a main event level guy that, for some reason, was just buried in hardcore angles in WWE. When he had the persona to go after in Austin, really anyone in the company, he could be the anti-Rock,
right.
He could be the anti-Cena, he just had all of that.
And
now they're giving the same opportunity to Wyatt that he should have had, and it's good.
It's what kind of, how the writers react to you. Vince never understood Raven, and other guys
they have a history of not appreciating people from other companies unless they were the top guy.
Right. Well, the good thing is Bray Wyatt is Mike Rotunda's kid, and he also has a homegrown guy they made, so that's going to get him a big push. And I think, in my opinion, he still is one of the top guys and deserving of a title shot.
He just needs a little more development and seasoning just because of the fact that his gimmick needs to be built.
His character's so good. His mic work is either the strongest or second strongest in the company, tied with Paul Heyman. His mic work is so strong. He's still so good at the character. They can do some of the visuals of people with the lanterns and the cell phone lights. It's the coolest visual they have in the company. Everything about the guy is just star quality. And his ring work continues to improve. All that work he did with Harper in the Shield, his work gets better and better. He had a few of the best matches of the year last year. The Daniel Bryan Rumble match.
He's wrestled Ziggler a lot of times, and they've had good matches, good solid matches.
The third match in the kind of weak letdown feud with Cena, the Falls Count Anywhere match, was a great match, one of the best of last year. And Wyatt and Ambrose closed out the year with a couple of really good matches at the end of the year. So he has that crazy character that you wouldn't want to believe in. It helps to have extra guys behind you as a cult, though, and taking that away hurt him a little bit. I think the booking of Wyatt has been one of the more underwhelming things for me in the entire year of last year, because Wyatt is one of my favorites. He's a very talented guy. I'm actually wearing Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt bracelets right now, truth be told.
Are you wrist feuding right now?
They are, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to gain control right now. But no, at the end of the day, I think Wyatt's such a strong character, and he's been booked so weak. I mean, he had the feud with Cena after he was so hot coming into Mania. Cena beats him, and it didn't help Wyatt in one iota. Being in the ring with Cena didn't help him whatsoever.
No,
it totally devalued him.
Especially with him losing.
And then he comes back. He loses 2 out of 3. He gets the one fuck finish in the cage. He wins the second match.
Right, but he loses the bookend match.
Loses clean at the blow-off the final match of the series. And then that's just the end of that.
And Cena's booked even stronger after that.
Of course.
And do you remember how they completely buried him in the match? Whenever Cena lost to Lesnar and they were trying to sell the rematch, they had Cena go full-on Super Cena, I'm not putting you over at all, and just crushed him.
That was Vince's way of trying to elevate Cena after the Lesnar loss.
But don't use Bray Wyatt. Don't do it at his expense.
They're the wrong guys to do it.
I don't know if you're going to follow me on this one or if you're going to be with me on this, because the thing with Wyatt is he can be a heel or he can be an anti-hero that the fans will still cheer for. I don't think you're never going to see him be a good guy face. It wouldn't work. It would kill the character.
No, yeah.
Do you think he's a victim of them just having too many damn heels? Because think about it, you have so many heel workers, and they're so afraid to pencil people into the face positions that everyone eventually just keeps getting bumped back and changing back and forth. Because
I think they currently, actually, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, I think they currently have a lot more faces than heels, because Orton's returning as a face.
Well, right, but think about
Reigns and Bryan.
Think about how many separate factions of heels though you have, because Bray kind of does his own thing. He's not really with the Authority, but in the Authority you have Seth Rollins is a legitimate main event, caliber talent. He's getting the work right now. You have Bray Wyatt. You have all the up and coming mid card guys that deserve main event roles. Like Barrett needs a lot more matches because he hasn't he's been gone so long. But you have a lot of those guys just kind of trying to be. And then you have Lesnar. You have Lesnar as the unbeatable monster.
Of course, we forget about Lesnar because he doesn't even know he's in the company.
Oh yeah, we forget he's there too.
The first time that he came back, he didn't bring his belt with him. They don't even notice.
Yeah, he wasn't. It wasn't even there the other day, and they don't even mention that they have a WWE champion. So I mean, that's kind of the problem with that too. And then you have Triple H too, who is sometimes an in-ring heel as well.
Part of the good thing with that, with Triple H having been gone recently and Lesnar always being gone, is that the second biggest heel in the company behind Rollins right now is Wyatt, which is good.
But the problem is, you're constantly being reminded whenever Lesnar or Triple H comes back that there are people in front of the pecking order of those two constantly getting in the way.
Right.
And then you have Jericho. God knows, next time he comes back, he might be a heel. They're talking about bringing Sheamus back now as a heel. Why? Don't get me wrong, that was when he was more effective and he was able to get over.
God, I'm so over Sheamus.
Yeah, I am too. I didn't buy any of the merchandise, thank God.
I can never even buy a. He has shirts that say "fellow" on it. I can't rock a fellow shirt.
The face Sheamus was the death of everything. Like the matches he had with Orton and the Hell in a Cell and whatnot. Yeah. Those were good, solid matches.
The guy's not a bad worker. I don't want to bury Sheamus. He's not a bad worker. He works hard and he matches up well with certain guys. Mrs. R have really good matches.
Some of his promos and whatnot are just cringeworthy. He's
not a mic guy. He's very vanilla on the mic.
Bad. He's like the Saturday morning kids show level bad, where the parents are just like, I hate this guy.
He's more vanilla on the mic than he is vanilla in his skin complexion. But one of the good things now, hopefully in my fantasy booking, I can save Wyatt's career, and I'll tell you how. The best way to do that, but thankfully he's being re-elevated now. He's being pushed with Ambrose. He's beating Ambrose constantly, which could be hurting Ambrose. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But the good thing is Wyatt is getting a lot of clean wins. They main evented the last show, the TLC pay-per-view. The main event was Wyatt and Ambrose, and Wyatt won. So Wyatt's getting some big wins back. They're starting to get steam again. He's getting over again with the crowd. And hopefully now, going into WrestleMania, the rumor is, if we don't see Sting and Taker, that Taker's opponent is going to be Bray Wyatt.
But a lot of the luster's already been knocked off that by Undertaker losing to Lesnar, and there being no sense of drama now, because if Undertaker's going to the Hall of Fame in 2015, he's going to win. So already it's like, well, we're booking Bray Wyatt with another loss. Here we go.
Well, they're still.
He's losing to a guy that had to be stretchered out last WrestleMania or had to go to the hospital or whatnot. It's let's make the Undertaker look strong at the expense of Bray Wyatt.
If I'm booking Bray Wyatt, he wins the match. I'm not sure this is Taker's
I can't send him out on a loss
match.
Like that.
I don't know if this is Taker's last match though, because they still have Taker and Sting, and there's still a chance he could do one more year next year.
It's getting to that point. It's sad for me, but it's getting to that point.
It's very sad, and the pictures recently online that have surfaced of Taker are very sad. He doesn't look healthy whatsoever.
No.
Pardon me, I've got a cough going. But I think that for myself, I'm booking the stereotypical dark back and forth mind games Wyatt Taker feud going into WrestleMania, and I think Wyatt wins and Wyatt wins.
But you could have done so much more having the family there, because you could bring Kane back to have the Undertaker's back. Is he going to turn on him like he always does? You could have brought back,
that's certainly the better option, because you're also by osmosis.
Or you could have him and Sting have worked at, or you could have done a 3-on-3. You could have done the Brothers of Destruction and Sting versus the Wyatt family. I think that would honestly be more effective. It'd protect Taker more in the ring and allow him to get one more match.
Yeah, but I think now at this point, Taker's on the side of the WrestleMania vans for the advertisements.
So he's going to show up.
He's going to be there.
He's determined that he works at some point. He feels weird if he doesn't.
And I feel like the way to get Wyatt back in, even if Taker's lost the streak and he's losing his luster, Wyatt still beating the Undertaker at WrestleMania is a big win. Well, it's the biggest win of Wyatt's career.
Honestly, though, here's what I would do, just because of the fact that. Have
Wyatt take Taker out.
No, not even that. My idea is, because I hate all of the above options for the world title match, screw it. Have Wyatt win the Royal Rumble as an anti-hero, build him up with one more feud at Elimination Chamber for his spot that he retains, and have him face Lesnar, a guy that Lesnar doesn't know how to work with because he's not your stereotypical athlete like Cena or Orton, and do the whole matchup kind of like, okay, is this guy goofy enough, and can he take enough punishment to actually beat Brock Lesnar, the Beast? Because I think that's more believable than Daniel Bryan, just because of the sheer size difference. I'm not getting into my hatred of Daniel Bryan or anything like that. Or just because I feel like Roman Reigns, just not to tease my thoughts on him, I think he's just too raw, and they're rushing it too much that I don't feel like, despite the crowd reaction, I don't feel like he's well-rounded enough to be appreciated in the role that they want him to be. I think we're going to see another, not to the level of Jack Swagger, but I don't think that it'd be as effective. I'd rather see, in terms of a sheer spectacle, the lights going out at Mania, all of the, the phones and everything up, and Wyatt challenging Brock Lesnar like this is, and Lesnar kind of having a perplexed look like, okay, this is really odd, I'm not used to this.
They would never, ever do that.
No, because it's a good idea.
Because it's not a bad idea. The first thing is that Vince doesn't ever do heel on heel or face on face a lot of time.
He doesn't understand that it's not Wyatt's not your typical.
But there also are two other options that you're overlooking for the Rumble. I mean, obviously Bryan and Reigns and
Ziggler
are the number one, the 1 and 2. Ziggler and Ambrose, I think, are also better choices than Wyatt to win this Rumble.
Well, we'll get to that though. But getting to the Shield real quick, I'm just going to make my point real quick. I gotta say, short guy at the end of the stick. I gotta feel like they're shafting Dean Ambrose. Honestly, I do. Because if you look at the guy that's had more consistent ring work, Rollins has kind of just been like, he's been rope-a-doping, he's been hitting Cena with a few things here and there, he's been wrestling him, he's been getting into all the main event segments. Mm-hmm. But if you look at, other than the matches that he's had with, Rollins and whatnot, other than being in like the tag matches and whatnot, the more memorable matches have been had by Ambrose. The guys that he's feuded with, working Luke Harper on Raws, doing the whole feud with Wyatt and whatnot. I feel like he's carrying most of the water for the Shield guys while Roman Reigns was hurting everything. And Reigns is getting more of the reward. Rollins has the golden ticket in that damn briefcase whenever he wants to cash it in. They could even do it at Mania because they haven't done it yet. I think it will because they've been teasing it for a while and no one's ever done it.
It's going to either... I don't want to spoil anything for those out there that don't have computers. But at this point, Brock Lesnar, his last 2 dates on his contract before he's supposed to leave for good, apparently, for UFC or whatever the hell.
Or Mania and the night after, right?
Mania and the night after. So you could either do... Reigns slays the Beast and Rollins cashes in, or you could do Lesnar actually gets the upset, retains at WrestleMania,
and then Rollins cashes in like they teased whenever he tried to do it during the match.
Right, and here's my thing about that is like, okay, so summing up the Wyatt family, I'd be cutting Rowan, and I think Harper is a high level.
He has a high ceiling,
lower main eventer / high IC champion guy, and I think Wyatt is,
which is better than with a crowded field like WWE has and only one world title. I think that's about as good as it can get for Harper, but that's not bad.
Yeah, but anyway, in the Shield, it's always been funny because you have these three distinct guys, and it was always known when they were together that Rollins is this amazing, like, high-flying guy that can do all this cool stuff in the ring. He's the workhorse guy. Reigns has the look and the size they like, so he's going to get pushed regardless. And Ambrose was the guy you didn't think, what can this guy really do?
See,
but now he's become.
Opposite.
But no, I mean, originally when they first got together, you knew the work rate was Rollins and the size was Reigns. So you're thinking, well,
and
what the hell is Ambrose going to do? But now with this Stone Cold Dean Ambrose, and I I say that in a positive way. He has this amalgamation of Steve Austin, Brian Pillman.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Flying Brian.
Loose Cannon Brian Pillman, and who's the other one I was thinking of? Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
He has this mix of this unpredictable lunatic fringe that has gotten over in spades. I mean, when in the time when Ambrose was the number 2 face with Cena, they had that feud, Ambrose and Cena over who's going to fight Rollins.
And then it's almost like he got busted back one peg down, and he's wrestling Wyatt. That's my problem.
He won the feud, and then he won the right to wrestle Rollins, lost the matches to Rollins, and now he's losing to Wyatt. So in terms of losing, he's losing a lot of matches. But with the crowd, he's so over.
But that's the problem. I feel like they're
they're
shortchanging him at the expense for Rollins. Now, the way I look at it, I always felt like Ambrose was the most talented of the 3. Rollins, I think he has some potential. Can we please get Ambrose and Rollins some new theme music, though? I hate the themes that they have. I cannot stand them.
I agree with the hatred for Rollins. I kind of like Ambrose's theme music.
But what does a motorcycle have to do with Dean Ambrose? What in the world? I thought it was? I thought it was Bobby Lashley. Every time I heard the theme, I was like, Bobby Lashley's back? I'm like, he's in TNA. Well, maybe TNA's dead. Oh, no, it's Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it kind of works for me. I don't know why. I hated it at first.
I don't even mind him wrestling in jeans. Like, that's fine. That's your attire. At least you're not all wearing the Shield thing like you are in WWE 2K15, and there's no differentiation between your characters at all.
Right. I mean, for me, the Dean Ambrose character has evolved so much in the last 6 or so months. Just like he can do this. He can pull this goofy stuff off, like bringing the hot dog cart down.
Yeah, and he's funny. He's more entertaining.
He brings the toys out.
To me, Reigns can't do anything.
He power drove the Seth Rollins doll, and like he's doing all this crazy over the top,
just
half comedy, half crazy
crowd
stuff
into it. Like
and
whenever
really
he
works.
Came out during Rollins' match and opened up the briefcase and poured a Pepsi into it. I love that. And he's just messing with him and he's like eating popcorn out of it and everything.
It's half comedy, but it fits his character. He's nuts.
He's improv it, yeah.
And his acting
is so good. And he's so good on the mic, and
he's so different. He's such a different character. You've got this lightning in a bottle you had with Steve Austin. You've got it in Dean Ambrose. That's a bold comparison, but you've got it in spades with Ambrose. And Ambrose is, right now, at the height of the popularity, a better worker than Austin when Austin got as popular as he got. So you have, in my opinion, the more total
main event ready guy, and you can even build up Rollins vicariously by having him feud. But my problem is, I am dreading a Roman Reigns world title reign. I don't care. I know, but that's why I'm not interested. Like we talk about me hating the product, and for me, the biggest thing is that I can see the train coming. And I know it's going to suck. I don't care about Roman Reigns at all.
The train's 6'5". That's why the train's coming. It's one of those.
But I know exactly why it's getting booked. You talk about how much more entertained you are by Ambrose's comedy and just his pure in-ring work. I don't want to see the guy with a kick, a clothesline, a Superman punch, and a spear. I don't care. I don't feel like he's legitimate enough to beat Lesnar, and I really don't feel like him coming back in late December is enough time to build him up for WrestleMania to make me suddenly believe, okay, you beat the Big Show, you're maybe going to feud with who? I don't know. What other heel do you have? Luke Harper, and now you're going to beat Brock Lesnar? Granted, the guy never comes to work, so you should be able... He doesn't know his job well enough. He'll forget everything like I do if I'm off that long. But I just don't see it. I know the fans like him. I know he's popular with the women, but comparing him to Rollins and Ambrose, it's just not fair. They're at a different level in terms of development.
Here's my thing about Roman
Reigns. I honestly
Reigns.
feel like Ryback is more over than Roman Reigns right now. I just don't care.
He is. And I'm going to break the internet. And how I'm going to do that is by defending Roman Reigns. Because anytime you've got a guy that you know is going to be the next Cena, he's the next 15 years, he's the next number one guy, he's being groomed already to be that guy, he's got the look and size Vince likes, and he's athletic. So and he's got the look for the ladies. He's going to be the next Cena. We're going to have to deal with it regardless. But... sorry, guys. In all honesty, I feel like he's better than people think he is, and it's because of that. We have this predetermined not wanting to see him because, number one, he's not as good in the ring or in totality as Rollins or Ambrose. He is the third. He is the weak link of the Shield of the three, for sure.
When originally, it's funny, though, because when the Shield was booked, like, when you saw a lot of, before they started wrestling matches, you looked at him and said, that's the guy from a physical standpoint. Mm-hmm. But the more people looked at his work, they kind of, they graded him a little lower.
Well, the good thing about the Shield six-man tags was you tag Reigns in for the hot tag, he does a Superman punch and the spear.
Yeah, it gets you the big momentum and
everything. You get his highlights. You don't get to expose him in the ring as much because he's in there for 5 seconds.
But
Ambrose and Rollins carry the match.
But that's my problem with it. I don't want to see a WrestleMania like that.
But to be fair, here's the problem right now with Reigns. I'm having throat issues. I'm sorry, guys, but the problem I'm having with Reigns right now is that he does his spots really well. The running drop kick on the apron, it looks excellent. Yeah. Superman punch is excellent. The flying clotheslines are really cool.
And he's a good spear. The
spear's great.
Did he forget how to do the power bomb? By the way, why doesn't he do it?
I don't know. That was I guess once they broke up, it was one guy.
I need two other people. I don't have the core strength for this one.
He does his spots really well, and they all look cool, and they're athletic, and they get a pop, and they're over, and they're great. But that's like your closing sequence. That's like your last 5 minutes of your match.
I'm afraid when you slow him down, you're going to expose him worse, though.
The other 10 minutes of the match, he has transition problems trying to get stuff done. He looked really good this past Monday. He just came back from injury. It was his first match back, I think. I don't watch SmackDown.
Yeah, it was his second match.
But him and Rollins had a really good match. Why it was given away for free, I have no idea. That was stupid.
But you're also wrestling Rollins, who can make a lot of people look good.
But Roman Reigns actually did more offensive moves and did more on offense in general.
That's the idea. You don't. My problem with Reigns is you put him on defense, it's going to look horrible. He's going to be flailing around trying to counter, missing counters, botching this, botching that. I just don't feel like he's ready.
I mean, ready is one thing. I think he has the talent to be ready, and I think he is going to continue to improve in the ring. I think for whatever reason, they did kind of jolt him right into that spot because of the size and the look. I think Reigns has all the tools. He's adding more stuff to his repertoire. As of last week, it was one match. I'm not going to base it on that. But he looks like he's trying to improve and adding more things to the arsenal. And I think Reigns, I know for sure that he's going to be ready and he's going to get the ball. I'm not sure if he's ready yet, but at this time right now, somebody's going to get the big push. Whoever beats Lesnar is beating the guy who beat the streak. He's beating the guy who killed Cena at SummerSlam. So I think Reigns may need this to become the next big thing. The internet fan, the crowd's going to turn on him regardless. They're going to be, I think, in New York or New Jersey.
But then we're going to get a Roman Reigns heel turn, which we all saw coming a mile away, and it's just so predictable that it takes all of the fun out of it.
I think Reigns has a really good charisma about him. It reminds me kind of Kevin Nash, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, he reminds me of that and a little bit of Jafar from Aladdin, but able to talk more. That's just, I look at him and I see the hat. He has like he doesn't have a Rock vibe. He has more, The Rock was a blue chip athlete, but he never really threatened people.
Yeah.
Make The Rock around Batista's physicality, and that's what honestly, that's who Roman Reigns reminds me of. A less polished Batista. Because Batista, you were able to hide Batista though. His first two title reigns, you were able to work around him. He could just be the guy in the suit holding the belt. You let him do a little comedy now and then, and he wasn't, in the spotlight as the WWE champ. His third heel title run, was pretty.
That was his
bad.
best. I think the best work he did was as a heel, personally.
Actually, for me, the best was what he did. Whenever he basically turned heel by virtue of the crowd reaction to The Undertaker at 23, and his little run after that. I liked, until they turned him face again, I liked those, 3 or 4 matches with Taker that he had, just because I felt like it was intense enough, and he brought, all right, I got to beat him, I know you guys like him more than you like me, I got to do this.
Right.
And to me, I'm just worried about, A, Reigns being exposed, and B, fans knowing that there's such a paucity of other options because you have just such an embarrassment of riches because you have all of these main event caliber guys that a lot of people are going to point to and feel deserve the shot more. You want to talk about people on the internet that defend people. Ziggler.
Yeah.
My God, the guy has... You want to talk about Wyatt having a call. Then you have all the Daniel Bryan fans expecting him to win it as soon as he comes back. Because, he's already established enough in a lot of people's eyes that he would be able to step right into that main event spot, coming off an injury. They could, play up the neck angle, going against the monster.
Bad News Barrett is also over, and you have a guy named Cesaro who's been jobbed out right now. He deserves better than he's getting.
Honestly, Bad News Barrett for me, I feel like it's one of those guys where I hate to be that guy whenever they ask you, well, who's your favorite guitarist between, these three? And I throw out, Eric Clapton, and they're like, well, he's not on the list. That's kind of how I feel about Bad News Barrett. I feel like he's more ready than anybody, but just because he's coming off an injury and he hasn't been given enough of a stepped-up push, he's always stuck in the Intercontinental bracket. I don't think they're ready to give it to him yet. I wouldn't throw him up there yet just because, charisma-wise and everything, he's ready, but I just don't feel like the stage is set for him. But, you have...
The thing is, the unjustified
hate you're looking at
for Reigns.
4 better options. It's not even hate for Reigns. It's just the fact that it's not ready.
He's not organically over. He's over to an extent because he was with the Shield and they're that good and pushed. But Ambrose got over on his own by being Ambrose.
But the thing is, though, you've already acknowledged, though, that Ambrose and Rollins, in your own words, are the better prepared, are the better developed with better in-ring skills. Why would I want to see the guy with worse in-ring skills at WrestleMania, one of the few times that I'm going to get to see a 25, 30-minute match, and the rest are going to be complete garbage except maybe 3 other times a year? I don't want to see Roman Reigns.
You're not the casual fan. You're not the teenage girl or the cougar that needs to see...
I understand that, but if you're telling me that Dean Ambrose is already that over to the point of Stone Cold Steve Austin levels, why am I pushing Roman Reigns?
I wouldn't say he's that over. I think he's that good, and he could be that over if they let him.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
but again, like Dean Ambrose, another guy, he has that same streak that matches up better with Lesnar because he's not intimidated, because he's nuts.
That's the perfect storyline.
I don't get that sense from Roman Reigns. It's just, I'm almost your size. I'm going to beat you. That's about it. That's really the only thing.
And that's a lot of times, sadly, as far as their storytelling goes, and that's sort of why it would work in that sense, because both guys are athletic. Both guys can jump out of the gym for their size, and both guys can really, put together a solid match. It's not going to be as good as some of the other options would be. I think Bryan or Ziggler or Ambrose all play heartfelt underdogs that the crowd actually organically cares about.
And this is going to be more of a power struggle that people actually expect to see, because, even Cena and Lesnar is not fair just by the body weight and everything else, and this is a guy a little bit bigger who's done some stronger things.
This is kind of the savior. This is the one big guy that equals out in size, and he's someone that Lesnar hasn't beaten before or seen before, so it's a fresh matchup. And part of the cool thing about this, I guess...
But to me, what really grinds my gears is the fact that you let Lesnar beat The Undertaker, and you're going to push this guy to the moon and have him beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania this quick. No, I'm sorry, no. I don't really even see a lot of comparatives other than the Batista thing to even compare Roman Reigns to size-wise and physicality-wise that didn't have a good, technical background or whatnot, because he's a hard guy to peg down because he's in that weird mid-range size where he can feud with bigger guys, but smaller guys, he's almost too big to feud with.
I'm interested for Reigns because something about the guy to me is likable. I've always liked the NOI.
He has the look. Don't get me wrong. I look at him, likable. I'm like, I know you're going to get a world title. I just don't want you to.
I want to see how they match up together, him and Lesnar, just for the athletic sake, and to see how Reigns continues to evolve, and because I want him to be as good as he's going to get pushed to be. Because whether he's good or not, he's getting pushed to Cena levels.
But
he's the new Cena.
How many feuds can you throw the guy into quick enough? Because the Big Show is not going to get you ready for Brock Lesnar. Lesnar beat that guy in 7 minutes.
Yeah, there was an excellent match Monday. The best heel to put the guy in the ring with is Seth Rollins, and they had an excellent match Monday, and that's the guy that makes him better in the ring. But I want to see how good Reigns can do offensively and do things against Lesnar. But more importantly, more interestingly, I think for me, is how's the crowd at Mania going to react? Because I think they're in Jersey or New York.
They're going to Batista boo him out of the building.
Reigns is going to get booed out of the building, but they know Lesnar's leaving as well, and he's a part-time champion. They don't like stuff like that either.
Yeah, but you know what, though?
This could be a Goldberg.
They say that, but when Lesnar shows up, he's still over as hell.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like me included, I like seeing the guy hurt people. I got to be honest, just from a pure comedic effect. I wanted CM Punk to win. I knew it was going to happen, that he wasn't going to win, but I was like, I really want to see what Lesnar does to this guy. I feel bad because it's someone I actually like, but just the pure comic, him throwing him around. And then when he fought Cena, I got a text saying, Lesnar hit 16 German suplexes on Cena.
Suplex repeat.
I texted back consecutively ? And then I wrote, with any other wrestler, I wouldn't have to ask this question seriously, but did he do it in a row? They're like, no, he didn't. I was like, okay, it was still a possibility.
Yeah, and of course, part of the drama of watching that match was, is Cena going to somehow come back from this and actually win the match? Because again, like no other wrestler,
I would have been mad.
Anybody else you assume is going to lose. Any other super.
He started doing his 5 moves of doom.
But
my other problem too is it's like almost that they built him up too strong, and then they tried to pull him back to earth with the second Cena match a little too much.
Well,
the third one's going to be even.
The
third one's going to be even closer fought, and instead of booking Lesnar strong like he should be, I think they're going to book him weak.
This is really stupid because there's a little bit of a chance, a small little bit of a chance that Cena wins this match. And I think this would be the stupidest outcome, to have Cena be the one to beat Lesnar.
And then have Cena versus Roman Reigns.
That is the worst case scenario for everyone involved.
I think they're going to... And I don't even know that they would let Reigns beat Cena. They would have to.
With the roster we're talking about, if you're telling me that Cena could walk out of WrestleMania as champion, I might jump out of a window eye first. It just seems ridiculous to me.
Do you want me to set up the spikes? you're going to do it.
I might as well go all the way.
This is Triple H and Vince McMahon we're talking about. The guy they've never buried to anybody except at SummerSlam and then instantly made up for it.
By burying Wyatt. But,
well, not even, yeah. And almost Lesnar retroactively in the second match.
I mean, I have no problem with the second match being closer because they had to reevaluate.
It wasn't back up to where it was. Closer. He almost won.
Yeah.
He was one Rollins interference away from winning to a tap out.
I honestly don't mind the way they booked the second match. The first one was cool to see. My thing is, like I said, you have a bunch of guys on your roster right now, in Bryan, in Ambrose, and in Ziggler, that are organically over, that the crowd has hijacked the show to cheer for several times, that they really want to see win.
Are they really hijacking the show, though, if they're just cheering for who they like? I hate that acknowledgement.
The Daniel Bryan thing was a hijack of the show. At Royal Rumble, we did change that entire course of the company, and CM Punk's career, of course, as he decided to leave, and also made a big change. But no,
you know what though? They should have known from the beginning that no one was going to buy another rematch of Batista and Orton. Those matches got buried on Night of Champions for a reason. No one wanted to see them. I don't know anybody that clamored for that one, other whenever they were first in Evolution. The staler they both got, no one wanted to watch that.
I don't even think it was that match that it was given. It just that it wasn't Bryan. Bryan was getting so over on the Raw.
Yeah, but I'd honestly rather see CM Punk more than anybody. Then I would have rather seen him in the main event push. I didn't want him to feud with Triple H. I'm glad he left because of that. I wouldn't want to work with Triple H either. I would rather have seen Punk versus Orton or Punk versus Batista. I'd rather see that than, I don't like Bryan.
Right, but Bryan organically did get over with the fans, and they were doing all they could to cheer for him, and if it wasn't for the fans, Bryan wouldn't have got the spot that he got. But anyway, the point that I'm making, to circle back around, is that you have three guys at least, in Bryan, Ziggler, and Ambrose, that the crowd has decided to like. They weren't forced to like, or they weren't overly pushed. The crowd got behind these guys, so you have better options, and that's why Reigns is going to get booed the hell out of New Jersey.
But the problem for me, too, is we're looking at four guys now that we're talking about that could be world champions, because we talked about Wyatt, we talked about these three Shield guys, and now you got to fit them in there into a situation with Cena, Ziggler, Bryan. You have all of these guys. Do you realize this is going to take 7 years or so for each and every one of them to get the world title they deserve? And a lot of people are going to get messed over because of injury and everything else. We're looking at a situation where, God, I hope it's not a long title reign.
The future's bright. The future's bright, though. If you're talking about 7 years of talented young guys becoming world champions, I'm cool with it.
See, though, a lot of this, though, is relative because there's a lot of guys in there that, I'm more ambivalent about, and then there's guys that straight are going to make me never watch the product. I will not watch when Roman Reigns is champion. I'm turning the damn thing off. I'm not ever tuning in. I don't care. I'd rather watch anyone else. Anyone.
I'm going to make a bold prediction for the sake of bold predictions, but I think this is going to come true. In 2015, in this calendar year that we just started, all three Shield guys are going to be world champions this year.
But even still, that's three guys. You got 12 months. You get 12 pay-per-views. You're looking at less than 4-month reigns for each of them. Someone's going to get stuck with a 1-month reign, Rollins.
Well, I think what's going to happen is whether it's either Ambrose or it might even be Reigns. There's a good chance Reigns wins at Mania and Rollins cashes in. I think Rollins leaves Mania as
kind of like a James Storm, Bobby Roode scenario.
I think Reigns might be the one to get screwed here short term because he's going to get the long term success. He's going to eventually beat Rollins back for it. But I think Rollins walks out of Mania as champion, and then Reigns is the one with the short reign for right now.
And then do you think Ambrose gets a world title shot next WrestleMania, assuming healthy?
I think at some point we are going to see the dream scenario of, my dream scenario, and probably not yours, considering what you just said about Reigns, but I think we're going to eventually see a three-way, Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose for the world title.
That's lazy booking, though. They're just putting the same people from the same thing together over and over and over and over again.
But they all have built-in storylines because they all have feuds with each other going on, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I do, but it's almost like beating a dead horse. Plus, for me, the guys that I like, the Zigglers, the Barretts, they're stuck in mid-card hell for the next godforsaken. I don't care if they challenge for the title. They need to win it. They need to put more names on that World Heavyweight title list because you look at the list, going back, there's not a whole lot of people on it. And then you got guys like Swagger and whatnot. There's really, for a lot of these people, there's no reason to stay if you're never going to get over.
So since we're talking about WrestleMania season and talking about the futures and trajectories of these six men's careers, book WrestleMania with these six guys right now. Where do you put these six guys in WrestleMania? What matches? What stipulations? What do you do?
I mean, world title match, I'm just going to go with it because I think they're probably just going to stick with their original plan because they get criticized for changing their plan so much. I think they're going to do Reigns and Lesnar with Rollins cashing in, with Rollins facing Ambrose as the other ones. But real quick, the other thing I want to say was I think that the other plan that they wanted to do a three-way, which I refuse. I will not do this. they wanted to do The Undertaker, Reigns, and Lesnar.
Ugh.
And depending on Lesnar's contract status, have Reigns either pin Lesnar if he's leaving, or pin The Undertaker if he's staying.
Nah.
Well, but here's the thing. So I'm like, wait a minute. So if he pins The Undertaker, he's 21-2. If he pins Lesnar, The Undertaker's 21-1-1. What is this, hockey? He's an overtime loss, or did he at least get a point?
They actually don't count it on your record, I think.
I know, but still, I'm going to count it because technically he lost the match and wasn't pinned, so he's 21-1. So we got Rollins and Ambrose finally. They have to do that. Wyatt, what are they going to do with that poor son of a bitch? All right, who's he going to feud with? Probably Harper.
You got Taker? Harper?
Oh, yeah, never mind. No, he's going to feud with Taker if they don't put him in that. But if Taker's facing Sting, so that Wyatt's opponent's going to depend on that. Harper, depending on what they do with Ziggler, they might have him face Ziggler again. Rowan, Ryback, I don't know. Now Ryback's a good guy. Maybe Ryback and Harper. They might do that.
Wouldn't be bad.
Ryback and Harper, and then I got to go Wyatt and Taker and Rowan and Mark Henry. That's conceivable if Henry wins a match or comes back from injury. Think about how bad.
The reason why it's funny is that it's probably going to happen.
Well, yeah, think about it because they're not going to put Rowan against Bad News Barrett. I'll go with that.
Barrett could actually carry him to a half-decent match because Rowan's pretty bad. He's by far the weakest of the six, but he's carryable if you have a good enough guy in there with him. I think. I guess.
Right, you know what? I'm changing my pick. Rowan comes out at number 30, wins the Royal Rumble in that stupid sheet mask, crowns Brock Lesnar. No, I'm kidding.
Anyway,
you'll never watch the company again.
I'm once again out the window on my eye. No, I think he's the one young guy I don't want to see get pushed. I don't care about him. I like Ryback. I like Rusev. They have a lot of good young guys. But I think for Mania, at least the way I would book it personally, I guess you kind of have to stick with.
But then there's the other problem too. You have all these guys that aren't part of the Shield or Wyatt storyline arcs that are getting left out. You're building up Rusev so long that you'd think he's beaten everyone in the United States.
Well, you've heard the rumors about what they're going to do with Rusev, right? Rusev Cena.
Reveal him as being Mongolian, and she's going to leave him and bring back a real Russian to beat him up. That's what I heard. No, that was seriously the one that I heard. I heard there was some indie guy that's Russian that they were booking better, that they were going to be like, he's actually Mongolian, and bring this guy in, because that's what he is.
And these are the days of our lives.
Or no, Bulgarian, rather. He's not Mongolian.
Whatever the hell.
Rusev and Cena.
I've heard they're going to do Rusev and Cena, and Cena's going to be the one to beat the streak. Cena's going to do the same thing to Wyatt he did to Rusev he did to Wyatt last year. Cena is the one to beat the streak. And
are you sure he doesn't have the Undertaker gimmick? Because he buries a lot of people.
He does. Rest in peace, careers. But personally, the way that I would book it, just based on the 6 characters we are given here as the arc for this podcast, I'm going to just I guess I'm going to stick.
By the way, if Rollins cashes in, Ambrose beats him at Mania. And then Rollins does one of those things like when Jericho lost that match to Michaels and then won the world title later that night. I think they'd do that.
So then that gives the conceivable rematch next month.
Yeah, or you have Rollins looking like he's hurt, and it's like, well, he's not going to cash in tonight, and he does anyway because either Reigns or Lesnar are beat up.
Yeah, I guess since I don't really know where else to put Reigns, I think if I was booking it, I'd do probably maybe Reigns and Rusev. Because this way, if Reigns is the one to beat Rusev, that's a big notch in his belt without being world champion right away.
And then build him up for SummerSlam and give him more time because it's
5 or 6 extra months to be champion. Yes. So if I'm booking, I'd probably put Reigns with Rusev, have him be the one to beat Rusev, get the notch in his belt, have a good match with another young competitive guy. But it's probably going to be Lesnar. I also do have Rollins cash in Money in the Bank at WrestleMania and walk out as champion. It's a big rub for him. Whether it's with the briefcase or not. But I don't think they will do Ambrose and Rollins at Mania again. They just did it like 3 or 4 times in a row before the last
conference started. The Orton
and
Cena fought
and I mean, I would love the match. Ambrose and Rollins at Mania would be a great match, but I don't think they'll do it. So
have we ever gotten a non-gimmick match from them though? Like there was the lumberjack match, and then there was the cage match. Have we ever had one that was just them?
No.
No interference?
No. And again, if that's the booking, I'm not going to complain. I watch these two fight 1,000 times in a row. I'm cool with it. But I guess I would probably, since I think they're really going to avoid doing that, I'll probably, I don't even, oh my goodness. It's so hard to think of conceivable. I mean, honestly, I think if I'm doing Reigns Rusev, I think Cena would be really good with Rollins at Mania, considering they have a backstory now. And
They've already kind of faced each other, sort of. I mean, they've been teasing it for so long.
They have really good chemistry, and they never really had a clean finish, a real match. And I think Rollins beating Cena at Mania and then cashing in would be big for him. Even if Cena beats Rollins.
I was going to say, they're going to let Cena beat him.
Yeah, Cena can get his win.
And then he'll get the last laugh by cashing in.
Yeah, this way Cena's still kept strong by the powers that be, and Rollins still walks out with the last laugh. As far as Ambrose, the first thing you think of is Ambrose Wyatt. But
that's already happened.
But they're doing it right now, and it's not going to last another 4 or 5 months. Because they're doing another match tomorrow night, Monday night, on Raw, an ambulance match.
What about Ambrose Ziggler? You think that's a possibility? Because you got to book him high. You can't put Ziggler think about how many matches are going to be at WrestleMania. Think about how many you and I have just booked. Where the hell are these other guys going to fit in on the card? If there's only going to be 8 matches, you don't want to have Ziggler open the show. Not that he can't do it, but you got to have room for the other stuff.
Right, and they're both faces, and I don't see them doing a face on face for another.
Well, if one of them turns heel.
I don't want to see that.
I wouldn't either.
I really kind of fear they're going to turn Ziggler heel now because they're thin on heels. They have a lot of faces and they're thin on heels. Especially now with I could see.
I like him more as a heel, honestly.
I could honestly see Ziggler. They're doing Ziggler defending the IC belt against Bad News Barrett,
losing and then turning heel.
Yeah, that or personally the way I'd book Ziggler, since we're not doing Ziggler, but
he's going to lose that belt soon.
The way I'd book him, I'd have him face Triple H and beat him clean. I think it's perfectly built in, for all this
being
time.
held down and being given, I was the sole survivor.
It's the internet's guy against the corporation guy. It's the perfect storyline. It's a good match. Hunter can still go. Ziggler can tear it down with anybody. He can wrestle a fucking broom. So, I would do it that way. But then you're still left with where does Ambrose go? And it's why it's the logical choice, but they're already doing it. And it just, how do you put that off again till Mania?
What about Jericho?
They're so stacked already. How do you bring somebody else back?
How do you leave Jericho off the card, though? If you're looking
does he want to come back? Is he torn with Fozzy, or what's he doing this month?
Good point.
He could be torn again. Okay. At this point, I probably do... It's so hard to figure out. It's not inconceivable that they would wind up doing Harper and Wyatt, I guess, somehow. I guess that would make sense
if they're not doing Taker and Wyatt. Yeah,
they have the whole student teacher mentor thing. Wyatt
and since Harper's already heel and Wyatt's an anti-hero, you could have Harper go after him.
Sadly, the way that I'm booking it, since I would have Taker and Wyatt, I'd have Wyatt go over clean. I'm probably left with Harper against Ambrose, and that's kind of low for Ambrose. It's
good for Harper, low for Ambrose.
Yeah,
and again, it's a match that we've seen on Raw how many times?
They haven't done it all that much one-on-one. It's been tag matches, but I'd probably do that. Rowan, I would leave off the card. You are way too stacked already. I'm leaving Rowan. I'm cutting Rowan in 6 months.
He's gonna wrestle Mark Henry.
If they waste a WrestleMania match that's not on the pre-show for Rowan and Mark Henry, it's another situation where my eyes are going to be in peril at the end of the night. So
you'll get a text when that happens.
I guess we have. Successfully. I would hope, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, you tell us.
I find it interesting that we both booked Reigns not in the world title match.
Yeah. At the same time,
I kind of thought you were fighting hard for that for a while, and then you kind of just realized,
I'm fighting for Reigns in comparison to the rest of the world. I like Reigns more than the internet does, and I think he's going to unfairly hated. I think he's already getting unfair shit, and he's just going to take longer. They're pushing him harder than he's ready for, and that's what the problem is. But I do like him a lot. I just think that this year that the natural progression is Daniel Bryan. How much heat can you put on Seth Rollins if Bryan comes back, has the Cinderella story, beats Lesnar, slays the Beast in the underdog role, and then Rollins comes out and screws all of us out of this dream scenario with Bryan getting his run by screwing Bryan over at the end of the show. Now you've got this Bryan and Rollins thing going. Whoever beats Rollins at Mania, there's a program there. You have this young, arrogant champion as a heel. You're built up for 6 months of good programming, and Reigns is still getting over. Good scenarios. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully WrestleMania is half as good as one of the two of us have booked.
I'm not watching it, but hopefully.
I'll be watching with bated breath for the both of us. And hopefully it winds up being half as good as our fantasy cards. And if not, we can come back and complain.
We will.
I
have a feeling we will.
I look forward to revisiting the trajectory.
They're going to put Eric Rowan on the card, and that's what you're just going to lay right in there with. You're like, I hate him. They put him on the show. He was the opening match. He belongs on the pre-show. He doesn't even belong on the roster.
He belongs on Superstars on Thursday
nights. Battle Royal.
Yeah. Oh, the Battle Royal. That could be what saves a couple of these guys. Probably Harper and Ambrose, maybe. Ambrose can win it. That'll be...
Oh, if they put him in that...
It stinks, but, you know, at this point, we're
look how much it helps Cesaro. He won the Andre the Giant one, and then the next time he's in a Battle Royal, he gets eliminated by Heath Slater.
And you know how over he was before he got eliminated?
Yeah.
So, I want to come back here in a few months and rediscuss trajectories of how they're booking.
Well, the biggest thing, we're going to have to re-examine this. The Rumble's coming up. The Rumble's the end of this month. We're going to have a good idea who's challenging then.
Absolutely. But
he doesn't have to pick a champion this year. There's only one.
And also, they usually lay these programs around Rumble time. They start to set the big feuds up so we can actually come in and not only preview WrestleMania
Unless
and talk about the matches.
Then you don't get it till March.
Right. We can preview these matchups and talk about the card of WrestleMania comparatively to how we booked it and see how it goes. So we hope you guys will come back and join us again. I'm Jason Berg.
I'm Peck.
And we'll see you guys soon.